I'm not really nervous, but I'm more nervous because I don't think I properly planned out like the sequence of everything. My clinical supervisor is not going to be too impressed. I started feeling a little stressed when the whole class was chaotic. I have an observation on inferences this week. So over the weekend, I was creating the lesson plan and some of the materials. And here's one of them. It has some text passages from Winn-Dixie and it has inferences equals evidence plus schema. And I also created these two little guys. We're going to read chapter 14, which is when Gloria shows the mistake tree. After modeling everything and doing the guided practice, I'm going to have the students make an inference on Opal's feelings towards Otis when she's sharing to Gloria that he was a criminal in the past. After that, they're going to look at Gloria's mistake tree and make an inference on anything within that section. So it could be an inference about her character or about the lessons that she learned. Then afterwards, they'll be able to stick it onto an anchor chart. I'm planning to make a tree so that it'll look like it's hanging from the tree. Right now I'm making an anchor chart on inferences and it's either going to look like this or a mix of them. It turned out so cute. I put inference equals clues from the text or evidence and schema, which is what they already know. Then gave them ideas on how to inference, so looking at the characters' actions, feelings, what they say, features, using schema, what they know, setting, and plot. We have 6 kids out of 25 that are absent today, and the ones that are here today right now are kind of out of it. So I can't even imagine what it would have been like if everybody was here. During our scoot game where they hop to the next desk and solve a different problem, a lot of them didn't solve any. We have a bunch of kids who are trying to get out of the room, like asking to go to the nurse, going to the restroom. We're also revisiting the opinion writing that we started months ago, and this is how it all comes together because it's supposed to be Oreo for opinion, reason, and evidence. And of course, I had to incentivize them to get their work done. So I made personal doodles of the animal that they wrote about, and they'll only get it if they're working and they fix any mistakes that they made. Even after the benchmark, she was still practicing partial products on her whiteboard and asking me if she did it correctly. I'm currently cutting out Gloria Dump's mistake tree so that the students can stick their inferences onto here during my observation lesson. I have a full day of teaching today, which I'm not 100% prepared for. So I don't know why I'm spending time cutting this out right now when I should be preparing for teaching. I also noticed that I spelled making wrong because I got distracted. So yesterday it said making, and then I fixed it with this. Oops, I just ripped it. It's so nice being able to see this nice blank wall, but that means it's time to learn something new and fill it up again. The students were being kind of rowdy in the morning, so I was really scared for how this whole day would go. But during math time, I wanted to try something new and let them sit at their desks because they hate sitting at the carpet. And instead of setting the problems up on a separate piece of paper, I also tested out how they would do using the book. Usually they are off task with the book because they like to draw on the pictures. But I set up 3 boxes onto the whiteboard and I said, if you guys get 3 X's, you're all coming to the carpet. So that really helped with redirecting their attention. They got 2 X's. By the very end of it, they got an on-task sticky. And because my observation lesson is on inferences, we started a picture of the day activity where I showed them a picture and they make an inference based on what they see and what they already know. They had a lot of fun with it too because some of the pictures were silly. Afterwards, we put them into pairs to do this text structure sort. They find the definition, read the examples, and then figure out which text structure it belongs to. In the beginning, we had some complaints about who they were paired with, but after telling them that they can't switch partners and that they can just work on their own if they want, everyone was focused, and the people who were willing to work with a partner did a great job with sharing their ideas and making sure that both of them were on the same page. Everyone is also back on track with loving Winn-Dixie. They were quiet while I was reading, raising their hands to answer questions about it. It was so different from yesterday because yesterday, a lot of them were having sad conversations, including choosing the ones whose brains are always turned on. So far, solo teaching day 1 is amazing. I also get distracted so easily if I'm reading aloud to class. One of the kids was scratching his head so hard and so much that I started laughing during one of the parts, and my host teacher was really confused because that part of the book wasn't funny. There was so much that we planned that we didn't get a chance to do, but overall it was a really good day for the students. During our PLC, we were doing something, I forgot what it's called, SRSS maybe, where we're looking at their social emotional regulation and rating whether or not students belong in zones. Based on our observations, we would rate how anxious they feel, how lonely they feel, their behavior, basically things that would impact their learning, to see whether or not the kids would need additional support outside of the classroom to regulate all those emotions. One of our kids comes super early because he lives pretty far, and he was outside of the gate, and so I waved at him, and then he comes towards the gate waddling his little body, and he just comes sticking his little face through the gaps and just starts staring at me with his cute little smile. We had a math investigation activity that they really liked. I only gave them 10 minutes, so only one student was able to find the criminal. If I gave them more time on it, then more of them would be able to solve it, but we didn't have time to go back to yesterday's lesson because that was more of a review. The students picked up on prime and composite numbers pretty easily, so we moved on to this activity where you're trying to find all the prime numbers from 1 to 100, and as you can see, we did not get very far with it. I think it's because my students aren't quick with multiplication as they should be, so it's mostly the same 5 people who are helping me out with finding out multiples. When they come back in, we're going to start science, which they usually have a negative attitude towards. Part of science is to read passages, which they hate, but the science lesson connects back to text structures, which we're focusing on to improve the students' comprehension. The rest of the day was so amazing, and I think part of it is because I started this consequence chart where I would put 3 boxes, and if they were to get 3 X's for not being focused or shouting across the room, then they would all come to the carpet space. Our school also had 97% attendance today with 11 students absent, and so the principal randomly got on the speaker, told us the news, and just said, "Everyone go outside, we're going to have a 2-minute dance party." And so our students rushed outside. Everyone was having a dance party outside, and it was so fun because no one saw it coming. It was also a complete mess because kids were screaming, kids were running, kids were dancing. They surprisingly pulled themselves back together when we returned to class because we told them that after our little daily language review, we would play a brain bake. It is 7 o'clock and I'm finally home, and I'm completely ready for my observation lesson tomorrow. I have everything set up on the board and all the papers ready on the side, so I'll show you what that looks like tomorrow. One very special announcement that I have that kind of terrifies me is that after I was making copies for my lesson, I was walking out of the office and the principal calls my name. I peek my head in, and then she asks me if it's my last week student teaching, which is not. I have 2 more weeks. And she said that if I want to, I can have her observe me, and depending on how I do, she would write me a letter of recommendation, which is a huge boost once I start to interview. I know so far I'll at least get 2 letters from teachers. One is my host teacher, and the other one is the teacher I had in 4th and 5th grade, which I did preclinical experience at. Having the recommendation from a principal, that means a lot. I'm planning to have her come in during math time. I'm not sure which lesson yet, but if I get one shot to impress the principal, I'm going to make it on a lesson that I'm most comfortable with. I just gotta figure out now which lesson would be most suitable for me, where it can challenge the students, but I can still scaffold it enough to get them to where they need to be. It is observation day. I'm not going to teach math this morning because I need a little break to mentally prepare for my observation. Last night, I sent a document to my host teacher. She opened it up this morning and made a face like, and I was like, what? It's literally just quotes from the book. Like, I didn't write it, but turns out her eyes were just acting up. This is the whole setup. I have the objective, my anchor chart, sentence frame. Down here are directions for them during guided practice and independent practice. And then we have, this is the guided practice that they'll be looking at. They're going to read this part of the story and then choose evidence, use their schema, and then make an inference. Any students finish early, I'm going to challenge them to make new inferences based on this. For independent practice, I'm going to hand these out, and then they're going to make an inference based on this part of the story, which is when Opal wants to tell Gloria about Otis being a criminal. I'm going to have them raise this in the air once they're done, and then I'll hand them this one, which is making an inference based on that scene when we learn about Gloria Demp's mistake tree. I was also priming them for this inference lesson by looking at a picture of the day and making them do inferences based on pictures. So they know that there can be multiple inferences based on what you look at and the different experiences that you have. I'm hoping that they can easily make that connection from picture to text. The vision is to just let them stick it wherever they want and create their own inference tree. They got 3 stickies, 2 on task and 1 ready to learn just in the morning, and that has never happened before. Since the kids are doing such a good job this morning, I'm not really nervous, but I'm more nervous because I don't think I properly planned out like the sequence of everything in terms of whether I want to talk about picture of the day inferences that we've been doing or go over how I want to go over that anchor chart. I think what I have right now is okay though. I think it's just if my mind will jumble myself up. The big question is, how did my lesson go? Everyone was following classroom expectations like raising their hands and not getting out of their seats. So the beginning went really well, but once it started getting into guided practice where they were working with partners and I was facilitating, that's when all the strings started to get loose. Now, independent practice, I had them work individually and they were all quiet during that, but I think people were still very confused about schema because they wouldn't write down what they already know through real life experiences rather than talking about the Winn-Dixie novel. So that was definitely my fault. I think I should have scaffolded a little more during the guided practice instead of making them work with partners. I also should have shown them that the bottles were going to go onto the tree at the very end, because once I said that, everyone was suddenly rushing to flip through and make an inference on Gloria's tree and rushing to trace over their words with pen because we're going to have it up for open house, and they were coloring and they were cutting so that they can hang it wherever they wanted to first. I also have a feeling that my clinical supervisor is not going to be too impressed with my lesson today, because last time she said that I start at step 5 and keep going from there. This time I think I started at step 1, but I probably skipped step 3 and 4, so back on 5 and keep going. This is how the tree is coming together and I love it so much. Surprisingly, nobody's putting it in the whiteboard space yet, but if you can't tell, these are the friends. That's not even all of them yet. Oh, that's not straight. After lunch, we started Winn-Dixie to get everyone settled in. It was the first time that everyone was quiet throughout the entire story. Anytime they wanted to comment, they would raise their hands and add so much value into our conversations. Afterwards, we were doing reading workshop. My teacher had to handle a big issue with 2 students, and I took a small group in, 4 students. The rest of the class were fooling around. They didn't do any work. Even the ones who are usually doing work were off task. After I was able to finish with those 4 students on this passage that we read a couple weeks ago, I asked my host teacher if I could take them out for the extra 15 minutes because the rest of them basically spent inside doing that when they weren't supposed to. I also stopped in the middle of my lesson with the small group to give an announcement to the rest of them, and they were still messing around, so they all stayed inside while I took those 4 kids plus 1 more outside, and it was honestly the best time I've ever had. We were playing 4v2 and the 2 boys are soccer players, but it got so competitive and one of the boys on my side of the team slipped because there was mud on the grass. 100% my fault because I shouldn't even have brought them out there, but all 6 of us were laughing so hard throughout the entire game. And that same boy found a butterfly, huge butterfly by the way, that had a broken wing, so he was just holding it like this and then put it into our garden at school. After school, when the boy got picked up, the one who slipped, I told his mom that he was one of the students that was super focused during the small group, so he got the extra playtime. I apologized for his mess because it got all over his sweats and all over his white shirt. The mom was super nice about it and she was like, don't worry, it's just clothes. It was such a beautiful way to end the day because I started feeling a little stressed when the whole class was chaotic.
Do you have your little light bulb out still?
Yeah. What's the plan here?
Oh, we're trying to make it higher so it can go faster.
Oh,
Did you see that?
I did see it. Nice job. Watch the feet. It's okay. It's okay. Oh. I am so impressed. We gave the students the extra recess. A lot of them wanted to play soccer. Even a lot of the girls joined us. The students had beautiful teamwork. They were passing the ball to everyone. They weren't getting mad at each other. They were a lot more in control with how hard they were kicking. And when we came back into the class, we were doing a math hunt, as you can see with all the papers over here. And again, they followed the rules. People who were working as partners were doing a great job teaching each other and learning with each other. It is just such a great day so far, and they're being so quick with getting those stickies off our poster. This is what's left of it, and they even noticed that they're getting a lot faster at taking it off than last time. Also, during the math hunt, the principal and assistant principal walked in and saw this beautiful classroom full of students working together, being on task, having fun. It might have looked a little crazy in the beginning, like when you opened the door, because students are everywhere, but they can easily tell just by that look that the students love being at school today because there is engagement there. My host teacher made a comment saying that the students might be able to take the whole sticky poster down by the time I'm done with student teaching, and everyone was like, no, why do you have to leave? One of them commented like, can you please be a 5th grade teacher, or at least be a 5th grade student teacher so that we have you next year? And then I said, I'd love to, but I don't get paid to be here. And then the kid said, I'll pay you. I really wish I could stay here until the end of the year though. Even though there are moments where I feel terrible about the day because of behaviors, my love for them is something that I've never felt before.